Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and eye care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Break reminder and force break help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force break activates to rest your eyes. Eye care you. Safeguard your eyes. Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and eye care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Break reminder and force break help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force break activates to rest your eyes. Eye care you. Safeguard your eyes. Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and eye care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Break reminder and force break help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force break activates to rest your eyes. Eye care you. Safeguard your eyes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another day of the AMX Global League. My name is Reed, and I'm here once again with Wei Han, and we are back for yet another day of action. Today, we're featuring once again a free race as our first race. We've got Porsche 919 LMP1s on Circuit of the Americas. And then, of course, after that, we'll be heading out onto Imola, also known as Autodromo Internazionale. Just making Marco cringe out there a little bit. But yeah, we're going to be racing GTE class cars out there. So some really exciting cars on a couple of very iconic tracks. And it looks like a pretty good day of racing ahead of us. How are you today, Wei-Han?
Yeah, well, doing great myself, Reed. I hope you're good as well. So, in fact, we're going to Circuit of the Americas, as you just mentioned. And I'll tell you, the saying that goes, everything is bigger in Texas is definitely true here, because this is one of the biggest racetracks in the Formula One calendar. It's also got quite a lot of elevation changes, so it is something that's going to be interesting for the drivers. But of course, we are racing here with the LMP1 cars that were used in endurance racing in the years prior. So some information to go by with the format that we have for the first race here on day 10. Here at AMX Beta Season 2. We're using the Porsche 919 LMP1 cars at Circuit of the Americas, the Grand Prix layout. That means you're using the full 5+ kilometer layout. Weather 26 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure if that's true over in Texas, but and 55% relative humidity. And yeah, basically perfect conditions for the drivers to go all out with LMP1 cars here at Cota.
Yeah, I always have to make sure I know which 26 degrees this is, Wayhan, because it's 54 in Freedom units. Back down to 12 degrees. A cold day in Austin, Texas. A mere 400 kilometers from where I was born. So, very familiar place for me. This should be a familiar slide for everyone else out there watching. It details the prize pool breakdown. We've got 90 races spread up into 45 free, 20 races you pay $5 to enter, and of course, or 22 races. Then of course the rest of the races are paid tier 2, $20 to enter, but a total of $506 on the line every time in the total prize pool there. And of course you can see down below 80-minute qualifiers, 80-minute practice, 10-minute qualifiers, 20-minute race. And in order to race, you can head on over to amxrace.com, sign up, and get on in here for any one of our remaining, we got like 75 races left, something like that, a lot of racing left to be done here in Season 2. Here are the days we are racing in Season 2. You can see we are on the 24th of April, depending on where you are in the world. And no matter where you are in the world, these are the points that are on the line for every day AMX Season 2. For our free races, we have 8 points for first, 6, 4, 3, 2, 2, and 1, with 3 points on the line for the fastest lap. And of course, each point is worth $1 USD, and do the math on that one. So simple, even Wayhan can do it.
That's right. So we're coming to once again Circuit of the Americas. This was first opened in the early 2010s. Of course, it's seen a variety of racing cars that have come in, Formula One predominantly, but we've also had WEC coming, V8 Supercar, and all those things like that. 5.41 kilometers in length, so it is comparable to most of the racetracks in the Grand Prix calendar. Certainly a perfect length for some good racing. It is at quite a high altitude of 171 meters above sea level. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not for the drivers, but yep, we're using a very special car on the iRacing service. So this car came to iRacing, I think it was in 2017 or around that period where it came onto the iRacing service, because before that it was used in endurance racing in the WEC. So it's won many races, it's seen a lot of key events in motor racing, and it is now here for the drivers to enjoy on iRacing. So we have quite an iconic layout here, and in fact this Porsche 919 that's being used here on Cota, this is the exact format that was used back in the WEC when it used to come to the United States. So certainly very exciting indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. These cars are really, really cool. A lot of cutting edge technology, and of course, very different than some of the other cars and racing experiences we have here. I think we just had NASCAR trucks yesterday, so a very different style, obviously. And another big challenge that this applies is our drivers. A lot of the same players will drive every single one of our races. They really do have to adapt to some very, very different racing conditions. So obviously Circuit of the Americas is quite a different track with some very, very sharp corners and chicane or two. And these cars handle that very differently, as you can see right there. Getting a feel for how these cars are handling on this track today. Are you a 919 hybrid aficionado, Wayhan?
Yeah, absolutely. I am. Well, of course, the other LMP1 offering is the Audi R18. That was kind of a competitor car to this Porsche 919, but I've kind of fancied the 919 a little more just because it seemed to be a bit easier for me to handle in terms of, also because it does have a lot of hybrid power delivery features as well, energy recovery that you would see in Formula 1. So a bit of differences between this and the Audi, and because of that I prefer this Porsche just a little more. The one downside though with racing these prototypes in general is that when you're racing, you can just see from this cockpit view that you can see the front wheel arches kind of block off your field of view just a little bit, and that at certain times it kind of proved difficult for the drivers. But Reed, I have a question. So right here we're coming to Cota. This, in some ways, it is a home track for yourself. Am I right to say that?
There aren't that many tracks in Texas. So if I had to pick one to be my home track, it would probably be Circuit of the country I'm from.
That's fine. Certainly, it was. I think they made a great choice to use this as the circuit for the United States Grand Prix. Definitely a great choice there, because this track has a combination of many of the most iconic features of motor race tracks around the world. Of course, you have the SS section that's kind of reminiscent of what you would have in the SS at Suzuka, as well as Maggots and Beckers over at Silverstone. You have some of the other various kink sections, as well as trickier sections that come towards the second and third sectors of the track, especially turns 16 to turns 18 and 19. That's a bit like what you would see in the Turkish Grand Prix. So in some ways, it's kind of taking the best features from some of the best racetracks in motor racing and putting them together, and what's resulted in that, Circuit of the Americas. But I do have to also say that this, because of the way they've put this track together, it's also resulted in a very technical track layout for the drivers. And if anything, the drivers will have to be careful with how much they use their tires. So tire wear will be something that the drivers will have to be careful of as they take their car around here, especially along this part of the circuit where you've got two hairpins back to back. This is where it gets super technical. You'll have to ensure that you don't scrub your tires off too much as you try to set the best lap time around. Caio Gaspar, who we are riding with, I think he's set a best lap time of 1:44.82. Certainly quite fast indeed. But of course, you have the use of your boost, your energy recovery boost, which will be able to bump up your lap times, and the drivers will definitely be wanting to use that later on in qualifying.
Yeah, this was a really hard concept for me as somebody who's, I think, by far the newest to iRacing. You guys are watching and you're newer than I am, then wow. I had a lot of kind of a difficult time understanding this hybrid system because, to me, you put the gas in the car and the car goes fast, right? But when you interact with the hybrid system, it really does change your racing strategy. You can't just go flat out every single lap like you would be able to in F1 or a lot of the other like incredibly fast racetracks. No, you've got to kind of plan a little bit more, knowing that you need to charge that hybrid system before you unleash it for a really fast lap time.
Yes, in many ways that's the case, and I think in some ways it makes you actually have to use your brain as you drive, and especially if your race is going to be like 50 laps long or like 1.5 hours long. That's where you really have to strategize when exactly you want to make things count. It's you have to because in fact with these LMP1 cars you have different ways of deploying the extra energy. You can deploy it based on a button press, or you can have like a speed range where if you enter a certain speed, it will automatically deploy for you, and then once you cross a certain top speed, it will stop deploying so that you'll hold the top speed. So different things like that the drivers can decide for themselves how best to deploy their energy recovery system. So the last time I drove these cars was like in 2017, 2018, and because of this complex system, I just kind of told myself, gosh, I my brain is not versatile enough to handle these cars. I think let the real drivers do it instead.
It is a lot to handle. Just like this track, you're seeing one of the most difficult parts of that right now. Those double hairpins just back and back and back and back. It's a little bit different. We have the slow S's, the mini S's on the other side, and that's like a very, very big, sharp, angry S there in the middle. Some very challenging tracks for our racers to handle. You can see our racers for our first race of the day: Caio Gaspar, Josh Perwin, and Octavio Rondoletto. He will be joining us today as well from BRB Esports, Black Arts Racing, and Juncos Racing Esports, respectively. So if you guys want to add your name to the list, you can do that at any time during our qualifiers in the next 10 minutes. Also, we have another race coming up a little bit later on. So if you guys want to race some GTEs on Autodromo Internazionale, I'm just going to keep saying that instead of Imola every time. Then go ahead and sign up. We still got an hour of practice time left for everybody out there. So go ahead and put your name on the scorecard for today's races. Really excited to see how our racers do today. We've got guys like Josh Perwin, who is always signing up for every race he can possibly get himself into. Guys like Caio Vinicius Gaspar, by far the coolest middle name of all time. And he is always at the top of the standings, unless sometimes, a couple times, he has had some very rough starts, and he'll either have an incident early on or kind of lose out on a really tough battle in the middle of the race. So a little bit polarizing player, but always a player you should expect to see at the very, very top of the leaderboard.
Most certainly. So as Kyle Gaspar comes on to complete his out lap and onto his first time lap, we can just kind of see, from far, you can kind of see some of the unique attributes of this Circuit of the Americas, especially this turn one of the steepest places in all of Grand Prix racing. You're kind of going steep uphill, and then followed by a left hairpin, so plenty of overtaking opportunities. And then now you come towards the SS section. But of course, the main difference with this SS section as compared to some others that you see in other racetracks is that a lot of these corners are decreasing radius in nature. That means the corner suddenly becomes sharper halfway through, especially this corner. So what that happens is sometimes you have to brake earlier in advance and know exactly when to turn your car in further before the apex starts to bite you. And I think that's also one of the reasons why this track is very hard on the tires, because you're constantly relying on mechanical grip as you hit those corners. Coming upon this hairpin, the second hairpin that you see on this track, you have to get that right in order to get the best run down this backstretch. Plenty of slipstreaming possibilities for drivers here.
Oh yeah, definitely. If we do see some close racing, obviously if our racers are a little bit more spaced out, not a whole lot of drafting going on, but yeah, you can see that hairpin, how sharp it is, and then going into a very, very sharp S section here. Really important to hit those apex on the way to get that top speed through the back stretch. But of course, now coming right back through to start it all over again. A great onboard ride there with Kyle Gaspar and of course Octavio Rondeletto. This is the first time we're seeing him, and he hasn't been attending all of our races, so always a pleasure to get to see Octavio when he does come out here and race it. Because he is a little bit newer, he does have to contend with some of the titans of our circuits so far, guys like Kyle Gaspar, who you see there with his 1:45.7 time up on the post. So very, very interesting. Of course, he's got his livery in good order, and of course is a fabulous racer. So we'll see how he can stack up against the competition.
So we've already got the qualifying lap times in. Of course, Kyle Gaspar with provisional for 1:45. And Josh Perwin with a 1:46 in second. So Rondeletto will be the next driver who will come across the line to have his qualifying lap time set in. So I think we should be expecting perhaps a lap time to be within the vicinity of 1:46 for Rondeletto as well as he comes around the final corner. Yep, that final corner also important in Grand Prix racing, a lot of overtaking opportunities there. So as Rondeletto will come across the start finish line in the next couple of moments, we go back to Kyle Gaspar, who's out on his next timed lap. So you can see that in I'll be honest with you, this isn't a track that I'm good at. In fact, it's one of the tracks I find to be among the most challenging in all of the iRacing service because of the way that it's super technical. So I think some of the drivers will probably also share that challenge, especially if you're used to some of the other racetracks in the US, because we tend to know of tracks in the US as having a lot of flow, driver-friendly tracks. So with something like Cota coming by, you kind of have a change in the style of the racetrack design where everything is suddenly more technical, where you have to really be on top of the car, and you also have to be on top of your setups in order to make the best out of your driving here. So Gaspar, I think he made a bit of an off-track there on the exit of the final corner, but let's see if he does set a qualifying lap time as he comes across the line. I think he doesn't manage to best his previous lap time, so he still continues to hold on to pole nonetheless with his previous best of 1:45.79.
Yeah, it does look like that is the case. And keep in mind, with our hybrid systems engaged, that is going to limit the driver's opportunities to really post up an incredible lap time every single time. But they do need to be consistent, Weihan. They might set one really, really good lap, but with guys like Josh Perwin, you can never be complacent, right? So Kyle Gaspar, yes, number one right now. But I'm actually just waiting for Octavio Rondeletto to finish a lap, post up a time, because he's kind of the wild card in today's race for me, Weihan. I haven't seen him race very often this season, and so I never know exactly what to expect as he heads around the track looking for his first qualifying time.
Yeah, Rondoletto into the... Well, this is the final sector, which I kind of think of it as a combination of two hairpins. Oh no, it's not the last part, this is the back stretch, which is kind of the longest stretch here at Cota. You know, when you have long back stretches is where you can really figure out where the top speed of your car is. And I'll tell you, this livery is so misleading. You're driving a Porsche, but you have a Ferrari Formula 1 livery on the car.
Some people, this is how you can tell addicts, Wei Han. They just can't get away. No matter what car they drive, they've got they're like, no, I'm a Ferrari. I drive Ferrari. And like, well, yeah, but this is a Porsche car. I'm a Ferrari. I drive Ferrari. Yeah. So, yeah, nice to see some fellow compulsory fans out there, no matter what livery they are using. And you're talking about back stretches. Here's the front stretch through the finish line. Of course, there is a sharp hairpin immediately. You do have to hit the brakes a little bit. But both of those stretches, equally as important for racers as they are for us, Mehan. You spend a large amount of time sitting down in your chair. Remember, stand up, do your front and your back stretches. It's good for you.
Well, I'll tell you something. It's hard for me to stand up because I'm actually set up my sim rig as right now. Yeah, I don't really have a proper desk setup, so that's a problem. But yeah, seems like drivers are having a lot of fun here. So certainly all of them are within 0.5 of a second of one another. So Kyle Gaspar just 0.12, 1/10 of a second behind Josh Berwin. Oh, so Josh Berwin is your new provincial pole sitter with 1:44.946. Well, that's certainly good to see. So Berwin up to 44s and Gaspar in the 45s, and yeah, Rondoletto as well in the 45s. So I think if this is anything to go by, we will probably expect the racing to be just as intense, just as close as what is the case here in qualifying.
Yeah, and actually impressive performance there. Berwin did overtake Gaspar, and now with only 1 minute left, I wonder if he's going to have time for another lap to try to out-qualify, retake that top spot. Looks like he does come through with a 1:45 time, so that will not be good enough to reclaim that top spot. It is group qualifiers, so he does get one more shot at coming around with a less than 1:44.9, but that is a very, very respectable time for Josh Berwin. And honestly, when I was looking up the total lap times for this track, for LMP1s, the real life race time is 1:47. So you can already see these guys improving on reality one step at a time.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Of course, you can see that in real life. So of course, certain times drivers have quite a lot of things to contend with. But here in sim racing, it's just you, your car, the track, and your computer. So I think in some ways, some of the challenges are kind of taken away. So drivers can really focus on their driving without having to be too worried about some of the other things that are happening. So checker flag flies for qualifying. Drivers are down to their last couple of moments to set their lap times, and this is, well, this Ferrari driven by is this Josh Berwin? Josh in the Ferrari?
I know. Yeah. This is Josh Berwin right now.
Oh yeah, that's
one
nice.
tip, guys. If you guys are trying to figure out, and this was very hard for me initially because every player has different liveries for different cars. Who's who? Without a name tag floating above the car. Well, if you look towards the left-hand side of your screen in the tower, next to the numbers of the places, you'll see a red bar, and that bar is the car that we are currently focused on. So that's how you can tell that now we're looking at, Kyle Gaspar, who does just barely get in right under the wire. His final lap, he puts the pedal to the metal and heads right back up into first place with a 1:44.8.
Well, legendary stuff indeed. Kyle Gaspar taking the pole position right at the final moment. So I'll just go through the top three of the qualifying results. Kyle Gaspar will start from pole with Josh Berwin. Will start from the outside of the first row, and Octavio Rondoletto will begin from behind both the drivers in third. Both of them have absolutely close lap times indeed. So it could be anyone's game here at Cota with these LMP1 machines. So really, when you have so many drivers with about the same pace, the next factor that comes to play is then how the drivers will manage their own car and manage their own strategies, because that's where the real difference will be made for these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. We got the red, white, and blue out there on the track, ready to welcome our players. Man, this really does bring me back home, Wei Han, the Whataburger logo, a very Texas hamburger restaurant. So I just ate lunch, but I'm already hungry again. Oof, it's gonna be a rough day, Wei Han, but somehow I think we can pull through. A lot of racing on our screens. There you can see our racers on the screen with, of course, the pace car ready to get them through their first rolling start here. Rondoletto there in the back. Kerwin now in second after... sorry, I was momentarily distracted there. After our final qualifying time by Gaspar did come through and take back that first place. So he has to make sure he stays just behind the safety car, and our racers will take a leisurely stroll just to re-familiarize themselves here with Cota.
Yeah, so just a third of a lap instead of a full lap for the pace lap. Also a great decision because this track really is long, so enough for the drivers to just get their tires warmed up to get a feel of the track. Well, they've already had that during qualifying, and traversing some of the sections that, well, I'll tell you something, just something that I just noticed, all 4 cars are Porsches.
How can you tell?
I wonder. No, because the safety car is a Porsche, and all 3 are also Porsche 919s.
All 4 cars. Okay, sorry, you tricked me up. I was looking for where the punchline was, and I should never have done that with you, Wei Han. You're always keeping me on my toes. Okay, well, the safety car should be heading off here in just a moment. We will get this race underway. Waiting for it to start as we come back through the finish line. And here we go. We are speeding up with lap 1 of 12, only 12 laps, and it goes by comparatively quickly. So I hope you guys are ready for a lot of action, and I actually just want to watch Gaspar, because yesterday we saw him start strong and then have a small disaster that turned into a very large disaster. And though valiant, his climb back up to the top of the standings, it was incredibly difficult. And now already starting to see the battles. Less than a second between Josh Kerwin and Octavio Rondoletto. Kerwin never ever gives up if there's a chance to climb up in the standings, and there he is, back down to a second, and just starting to get our first our first lap times after the qualifiers. Usually, I guess you see some slower times at the beginning as the drivers get back into the groove. But especially with about a second between the drivers as Josh Kerwin takes a bad turn there, it is going to stabilize, at least for the first half of the race.
Yeah, so you can just see them on cold tires making a bit of mistake entering the hairpin of turn 12. Oftentimes when you come off a long backstretch and then where it's bounded towards the end by a hairpin, it's sometimes difficult to kind of get your braking right. It was the case for the drivers, but certainly over the next couple of laps, everything should be ironed in, and we should see drivers making their rounds much better. So Josh Kerwin, unfortunately, down a position from where he began, from second place, currently occupied by Octavio Rondoletto, right in front. I'll tell you, with these LMP1 cars, right, traditionally we would associate cars that are very powerful with cars with mighty engine sounds, as you probably remember from last week's GT1 cars, but not the case with these LMP1 cars. They sound relatively underwhelming, but these are absolutely cars on the bleeding edge of technology and are absolutely fast indeed. So I'm not sure what that's going to mean for motorsports. Is that going to be a death knell for like powerful engines being replaced by engines with technology, I guess?
And what we do, Wei Han, is we put speakers on the cars that play the loud car noises as they drive by to get the Doppler effect, so that you can hear them zoom by, but actually they don't make that much noise. And in fact, I have it turned down a little bit on my end, so I'm really not getting the full experience. Yeah, I mean, with iRacing, the car sounds are recorded accurately, so they do mirror the sounds the actual cars make on the track. But I think it's interesting that you make that point, because In truth, we are hearing recordings of cars being played through our speakers because this is sim racing, which is essentially what you're talking about, where in real life these cars would make comparatively quiet sounds, but that's like in real life when we're playing them through a little bit more loudly. So if you guys ever want a little bit of a louder experience, just, turn up the volume.
That's right. Well, you can see the drivers taking the liberty of the runoffs. Of course, here at Cota, you've got plenty of tarmac runoffs, so you don't have to worry about running too wide and finding yourself barreling into the wall. I can't remember last time I've actually crashed here. Because you have so much runoff that it's impossible to crash here unless your steering wheel disconnects or something. But of course, if you go too wide, you'll be slapped with a lot of 1x off track. So something for drivers to be mindful of. Turn 1 here, favorite overtaking spots, especially in Formula 1. You're kind of going uphill, apex, and after you hit the apex, and then after that you come down a downhill, which launches yourself down into the S's. So Gaspar continues to lead the race. He's been uncontested so far with his race lead, and he's already pulled off quite a fair bit of breakaway. And right now you see a perfect shot of the cars taking the S's section. Very nice to see the cars just weaving left and right.
Oh yeah, beautiful camera angle. Big shout out to our production for setting that up. This is, such an iconic track, and I think what makes it so interesting to me, not only does it incorporate a lot of aspects of different tracks from around the world, it is just such a modern track that you really do have to be able to navigate very, very technically through a wide variety of different situations. It feels really like a racer stress test. Right, they're testing every single aspect of your ability. Like it's not, Mom, Dad, I can drive really fast. I want to be a racer. It's like, well, little Jimmy, you might just need a few more skills before you get in there, and this track will test every single one of them.
Yeah, absolutely, that's right. I think the good thing about sim racing is that you don't have the risk of injuring yourself, at least not if it's related to driving. So in that aspect, drivers can really have a go at kind of doing whatever they want to the car without bodily harm and stuff like that. So as we continue to observe, this is a good battle that's going to shape up between Rondeletto and Josh Purwian. Battle for second position with just under a second between both drivers. So I think at this point, Purwian is currently set in third. He's trying his best to close his gap with Rondeletto in second. Making their way around turn 1. You can just see how steep the incline is, especially with this bumper camera. Very good perspective of the action. You can really feel the speed as you're riding along with the car. Definitely some great stuff. All the S's of Cota, I tell you, this is just very scenic shots there. You can even see the mullet, the amphitheater in the background there. It's usually used for rock concerts. Very nice feature of Cota, indeed.
Yeah, I actually really like the extra detail iRacing has put in here. Oh man, what a shot! Ugh. So good, just like I'm using the camera. Yeah, so a couple of things are happening, at least that I'm noticing. First of all, our drivers are still kind of getting adjusted to this track, with the exception of Gaspar, who was apparently born here, because he is really off to a great start, distancing himself from the rest of the pack. But the idea is that, Josh Purwian, I think, might have a slight edge as a driver in the way that he takes and handles certain situations, but getting a little bit ahead of himself sometimes on these turns. He really does make the most of the curb, even the green curb that's out there a little bit too much. And there you see once again our racers, I think that time it was Rondeletto, going way off the track at least a little bit. I mean, it might be safer to have so much runoff everywhere, but definitely want to keep it a little bit tighter. A lot of room for improvement here in the back of the pack between that race for second between Josh Purwian and Rondeletto.
Yeah, but another metric that we can also keep an eye on is the I rating that the drivers have. So certainly Josh Purwian, 7,300 I rating. This is absolutely alien territory. Actually, all the drivers are in alien territory as long as your I rating is above 5,000. You're kind of untouchable. But you can see that Gaspar and Purwian do have the slight edge in terms of their rating, but still Rondeletto giving both of them a run for their money, holding his ground exceptionally well. So Rondeletto is doing a tough job right now, holding off his second place, defending his position from a certain Josh Purwian who's hot on his heels. So Certainly great stuff by Rondeletto as he takes on this segment here at Circuit of the Americas. I'll tell you, the problem, another challenge that comes with racing here at Cota is that a lot of places, a lot of features of this track, as Josh Berwin comes along the inside of turn 11 hairpin. Berwin up to second, great stuff, great dive along the inside, move up a position.
And you can see it looking like another overtake is in the books. Rondeletto not content to give up that spot too wide now as Josh Berwin looks to go way wide around the curb. A very, seeming mistake, but coming into the hairpin, he does get on the inside and gives a little bit of a bump there, knocking Rondeletto back a couple tenths of a second. This battle absolutely melting. Both cars here heating up as they jockey back and forth to the second place spot. Just back and forth battling here, Wei-Han. It doesn't get much more electrifying than this.
Look, the only complaint I have is that drivers are taking so much liberty with the runoffs that that Cota provides, but still, if that means that drivers have good racing, then sure, definitely we're all up for that. Rondeletto down to third place. He put up a great fight defending his second place from Berwin, but of course Berwin moves up a position and he has his newfound position of second place. What this means now is that with Berwin now in second, he leads Rondeletto, and Berwin can now think about trying to close up his gap with Caio Gaspar, who is in the race lead. So a total of 5 seconds that Berwin will have to work towards as we come towards the halfway point of the race here at Cota. And of course, the next strategy for Berwin is to perhaps go towards what we'll probably call a hot lap mode, where you try to find yourself, you try to figure out how to make your lap times as quick as possible by certainly just driving here as fast as possible. So that's probably the next thing for Berwin to focus on, as he, well, I tell you, this AstroTurf certainly is very enticing to use, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you talk about as the hot lap mode. You really have two jobs. One is to race against the racers. The other is to race against the track and your own time. So let's get another look at that overtake here. One of many, of course. We're going to look at Josh Berwin go around the outside, and here's the re-overtake as Rondeletto comes back around the outside to try to take back that second place spot, and he does get it on the inside of the next curve, but Josh Berwin going way wide, does keep up a lot of that speed and maintains his position on the inside to head back off into that coveted second place spot. It's just so many S's. I mean, I call it an S, but it's more of a hairpin there in a couple of those cases, and so masterful to see Josh Berwin's retention of control over his Porsche 919 to keep that second place dream alive.
Well, that was some electrifying racing indeed. Because Monica being that these 919 cars have electric systems in them, so definitely putting all that to good use. But now with Berwin continue. Oh, unfortunately the gap has extended to 6 seconds behind the race leader, but still Berwin giving his all, just as he did last week with the GT1 cars. He's doing the same here with an LMP1 Porsche car here at Cota. So onto this over this turn 10 downhill section before coming upon the hairpin once again. Quite a tight hairpin indeed. You have to kind of plot your entry, your mid corner, and your exit very carefully before then going full throttle. Sometimes if you hear closely enough, you can hear the electric system, the electric boost system kind of working with the car. So as long as you hear that slight bit of a whine, that just means that the driver is deploying the boost.
And actually, this is so cool,
no whine,
right? Yeah, you can actually hear it. It's not necessarily just a loud, soft, but it is a very distinct noise in the background. And you won't hear it always, as a lot of these turns are quite tight. A lot of the hairpins that big chicane, or I guess, but you will hear it, and that's a cool feature here for iRacing. And we're back into that hot lap mode, Wei-Han. It is time to see exactly how fast you can be. You look way out there in the distance, second star on the right, and straight on till morning. That's the directions Gaspar is following, as he is way out in front of absolutely everyone. Continuing every single lap is at or close to his qualifying time around let me check real fast. Yeah, setting around 1:45, and I believe his best lap was 1:44.7. So even improving on his qualifying time, absolute monster there. Caio Gaspar, well deserving that first place spot.
Oh, most certainly. So Caio Gaspar holding his ground absolutely well. I think he's now probably finding himself in a comfortable position with 6.5 seconds ahead of second place driver. So as he continues this, really, I think Gaspar is also likewise on hot lap mode, trying to ensure that every lap he does is going to be to his benefit. But we do have a Josh Perwin in the background, so of course he is behind, but not too far behind that you can't see him. So onto the series of hairpins again. The way they structure this hairpins is such that you don't exactly just have two dead hairpins there like that. You have hairpins along with some additional apexes, so that kind of makes drivers have to follow a particular curve as they make their way around the corners, which in some ways does add to the challenge a little bit, because you then have to into the apex before you corner. Onto the corners, I would say easier to handle here at Cota turns 19 and 20, where you have to hit the right and carry enough speed in order to this main structure, which Gaspar is absolutely doing. Last time by for Gaspar, and so see that the lap kind of increasing already over time. You no longer, the drivers are no longer hit lap times of 44.75. So it does mean that the half of the race is holding their ground, not exactly too hard.
Sorry, I couldn't catch most of that, but I do want to just actually no, sorry, I'm still trying to deal with a little bit of a technical difficulty on my end. So in my world, Weihan, I am just in awe, right, of our drivers, and as truly all of you should be. It's one thing to watch drivers go around in circles. It's another one to try to do it yourself. And the greatest way, of course, to be able to see truly how difficult this can be is to get in there and try it for yourself. Get on iRacing, try to
Yep, so I imagine what Reed was saying right there is that the thing with sim racing is obviously you get to experience what real world racing drivers experience. So in order to have a feel of what drivers experience in the real world motorsport, come on to sim racing, iRacing here specifically. Have a go with these cars, these laser scanned racetracks, so you can kind of relive the experiences that you would otherwise only be able to experience when you watch TV or spectate a race in real life. So we are down to 2 to go here at Circuit of the Americas. Caio Gaspar, your race leader, once again he's extended his lap, his advantage ahead of Josh Perwin by another half a second, so he is 7 seconds ahead. Josh Perwin in second and Octavio Rontoletto in third. So I think Rontoletto has just set his fastest lap time of the race of 1:45.795. So definitely does mean that Rontoletto is currently fighting quite well indeed, holding his ground still, of course, with a 2-second gap behind Perwin. His goal right now is just to hold his pace as much as possible and complete this race on a.
Okay, just making sure everything's back to where it should be. How's it going, Weihan?
Yeah, all good, all good.
Okay,
okay. I hope things are well with you too.
Oh, every day it's a new and exciting experience here. And as we draw to the close of this race, it's not over yet. It is a 2-second margin between Rontoletto and Perwin, where the action has been for the course of today's race. But it's not over by any means, I say, as the gap lengthens and lengthens and lengthens. It's supposed to go the other way, Rontoletto. You're supposed to make the numbers go down, not up. But that just means that if we were on board with Josh Perwin, we would see him really putting the pedal to the metal, absolutely stretching this lead as much as possible. Some really slow turns there around those hairpins, and it gets even more difficult. Although now I would say we are on board with Josh Perwin, and he is absolutely hitting the maximum of the capabilities of these hybrid systems, letting it all hang out on the track as we head through our penultimate lap. Josh Perwin setting a 1:44.6.
Yep, coming towards the final couple of moments of the race, and obviously with a 20-minute-esque race format like this, certainly for the drivers, all they have to care about is just to push the car as hard as possible, but of course doing so at the right time with a bit of a strategy in the 20 minutes. I think a suitable time for you to really understand the car and track and really to evaluate how you gel and how you perform with the car. And I think that's the case with the drivers here. Gaspar continues to lead the race with Perwin comfortably in second. I have a feeling that these drivers are driving so hard just so that all of us here who are watching can enjoy them showcasing these wonderful racing machines, a wonderful track like this.
Also showcasing some incredible racing skills, right? Josh Perwin is a storied racing career all across Southeast Asian racing. If you've been out there on the tracks, you've seen this guy. He is a legend. Also similarly here in AMX Season 2, he's been very consistent. And even just earlier this past week, he had 2 first-place finishes on the same day. So absolutely a contender no matter what the situation. Although I will say, unless there are some complete tragedies, it is looking like he has locked himself in a spot here in second place. He is absolutely dominating, and we are heading into our final lap of the race here, 12 out of 12, as the white flag does come out. Final lap, or previous lap times are a little bit slower, but now, finally, with their hybrid systems charged, I'm expecting absolutely monstrous fastest laps here. And it does look like currently Josh Perwin is sitting in the fastest lap time with a 1:44.6. So very, very, very fast times so far. And even Rondeletto improving on his fastest lap time in just that past lap. So you can see all of our racers continuing to improve, but obviously it is still a huge lead for Caio Vinicius Gaspar.
So the white flag is in the air, and it's going to be the final lap for all the drivers here at Circuit of the Americas. As you can see that big banner up on top in the background. Very nice angles. And thanks to the production team for putting up these wonderful camera angles to see all of these racing action. So as Gaspar comes upon the final sections of the racetrack, we now have a look at Octavio Rondeletto, who's definitely had an absolutely amazing run here at Circuit of the Americas as well. And I'll tell you something, just like the Formula 1 cars, if you can get yourself on top of these LMP1 cars, these complex machines, it's also a tall order. So definitely a great job by all the drivers to handle all of that here within this race. So we're back with Caio Gaspar as he comes upon the final 2 corners for the final time here at day 10 of racing AMX Global Beta Season 2. Gaspar along the final corner, it has been and only has been Caio Gaspar who's qualified first, who's led all race long, and Caio Gaspar wins here at Circuit of the Americas with Josh Perwin, who will come across the start finish line in second, and Octavio Rondeletto, great showing by himself all race long. Rondeletto will come home in third position. So a fantastic run by all of the drivers here involved.
That's right, Weihan. These are going to be your finalists on the podium. Caio Gaspar from Brazil up there in first. Following him from a little bit further down under is Josh Perwin. And of course, rounding out our tower is Octavio Rondeletto there in third place. And of course, that is going to earn them top points for today, with the fastest lap, I believe, still going to Josh Perwin, who set a 1:44.6. Fastest lap of even through qualifiers. Some very, very impressive racing for our 3 racers here today on Circuit of the Americas. Well, thank you very much for joining me here today, Weihan. An absolutely banger day of races, and we're only just getting started. If you guys thought that race was good, don't go anywhere, because coming up, we have one of the most storied racetracks in all of history, I guess. It's Imola, the Autodromo Internazionale. Straight from Italy, it's coming up with GTE class cars in just a few minutes. So we're going to have a quick 30-minute break, and when we come back, we'll have that race, those cars, and a whole lot more coming your way as AMX Season 2 continues right after this.
Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and eye care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light Reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Brake Reminder and Force Brake help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force Brake activates to rest your eyes. Eye Care U. Safeguard your eyes. Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and eye care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Break reminder and force break help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force break activates to rest your eyes. Eye care U. Safeguard your eyes. Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and eye care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Break reminder and force break help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force break activates to rest your eyes. Eye care U. Safeguard your eyes. Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and eye care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Break reminder and force break help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force break activates to rest your eyes. Eye care you. Safeguard your eyes. Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and eye care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Break reminder and force break help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force break activates to rest your eyes. Eye care you. Safeguard your eyes. Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and Eye Care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Break reminder and force break help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force break activates to rest your eyes. Eye Care U. Safeguard your eyes. Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and Eye Care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Break reminder and force break help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force break activates to rest your eyes. Eye Care U. Safeguard your eyes. Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and eye care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Break reminder and force break help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force break activates to rest your eyes. Eye care you. Safeguard your eyes. Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and eye care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright? Let brightness intelligence do its work. Now better. Writing code gets your eyes tired? Try coding mode. Forget the time. Light reminder lets you know. Totally immersed in the movie? Minimize software won't distract you. Break reminder and force break help manage your screen time. When it's almost time, a countdown starts. Force break activates to rest your eyes. Eye care you. Safeguard your eyes. Safeguard your eyes smartly and easily with an eye care monitor and eye care U software. Working on a paper? Turn on low blue light mode. Is the sun too bright?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to AMX Season 2. I have to count all of my fingers there really quickly. It's good to be back because we have our final race of the day coming up, and what better way to end today than an absolutely incredible combo. We've got the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Dino Ferrari, yeah, right. Or you could just call it Imola. We've got that coming up, and I believe we have GTEs on Imola today, Wei-Han. How are you doing? What are you thinking?
Well, we're going to one of the best racetracks in Italy, one of the most storied racetracks in the world. In fact, Imola, a very special place indeed. We're also racing with the GTE cars, which personally, my favorite class of category of racing cars here on iRacing. Not biased, totally biased, because these GT cars, they're kind of like GT3s, but they have a bit more power, and they do not have ABS. They've only got traction control, so something that I enjoy quite a lot racing. Of course, we are coming to Autodromo Nazionale Enzo Dino Ferrari, trying to do Marco justice there so it doesn't kill us, otherwise known as Imola, as you mentioned, the Grand Prix layout. So the thing with racing here at Imola is that oftentimes we see that right now this track has a lot of chicanes, but it wasn't the case way back then, because last time this used to be a very high-speed track with a lot of sweeping corners, but due to safety concerns and of course the unfortunate events of Ayrton Senna and Roland Ratzenberger back in '94, and also various safety incidents that have happened during that period, a lot of chicanes were introduced, and it kind of completely altered the character of the track.
Yeah, it's a great point, Wei-Han, and we'll have a little bit of time to talk about that a little bit later. Here's our housekeeping right here. You win money if you play races. Now, if you're worried about the paid tier 2 $20 level, well, you're going to win a lot of money, $506 in that prize. But if that's too much, we do have paid tier 1, which is $5 entry fee, and free races for you out there as well. So feel free to come in for those, and we still have prize pools of $134 and $30 respectively, and it's pretty accessible. If you're looking to, if you try to play, chances are you're going to make it into top 5, top 10, and we still are giving you points or dollars for those placements. So come on in. We have 8-minute practice times, 10-minute qualifiers, and of course about 20 minutes of races, and this is what the schedule looks like. We are rounding out our final week of April, and we're moving into another 3 weeks of May. We have 4 race days each week, and 2 races on every single one of those days, finishing out day 10 of our second season on April 24th today, before taking a couple of breaks and coming back towards the end of the week. These are those points that I mentioned earlier. You win points by placing and also by receiving the fastest lap. Also one there for participation. But the point is, if you're paying $5 to enter this race and you're winning $25, then in order to make your money back, you only have to place in the top 10, which is, not bad. For paid tier 1 and then paid tier 2 are also a lot of money on the line. Now to go back to what Wei-Han was talking about on the very tiny logo there, it does say Imola. The full name is a little bit of a mouthful, but for fans of Imola, the history goes back a very, very long way. Obviously, Ferrari, a storied wheelhouse when it comes to racing history, but of course, Imola most famously known for the untimely events of 1994 with the demise of some of the greatest racers of all time. It has been revamped a little bit with those chicanes added, and they will be in the tracks as we race them today, so expect not quite as dangerous a situation. Of course, a wheelhouse full of some of the best drivers that we have out on the AMX Season 2 track today. They will be driving GTE class cars, like Weihan was saying earlier. No strangers to the GT category, but a little bit of extra oomph under the hood. 500 to 600 horses.
Yeah, certainly very amazing category of cars, which unfortunately will be phased out like the GT ones were phased out back in 2011. These GTEs are also going to be phased out within the next couple of years. So whilst they're still racing, we'll try to enjoy them as much as possible. So Ferrari's racing around, and I'll tell you, this GTE cars, amazing stuff. But Reed, I think as compared to the race just now, we are also coming on to another very iconic endurance composition of cars, because obviously GT cars used for endurance. At Imola circuit, you can do endurance races here as well. But definitely, if you do, it's going to be very challenging, and I think it's going to be a case for the drivers here.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different types of endurance, right? You need endurance to tolerate broadcast, also endurance to play through the entire 90 races of AMX Season 2. Not required, but, we'd like to see you out here. And obviously, when it comes to racing, you can do it for a very long time. We're not doing it for 24 hours today, but a lot of endurance races are out there, and of course GTE is some of the best cars at doing that. It will be sad to see them go. These are the cars that we talk about very, very later on in life to our grandchildren. Back in my day, we were watching GTE out on Imola. I can see it just like it's today.
Yeah, very much so. So you see the cars coming upon the backstretch and onto the final two corners. I'll also look forward to those days, because who knows what kind of race cars will come by that point in 40, 50 years down the road. So Perwian along the main stretch, an interesting looking livery there, white, blue, yellow. Yeah, trying to kind of identify what livery that is. So you can see that with the many changes that have been made to Imola over the years, you don't exactly have a extra long portion at Imola where you can go top speed. The longest really is the main stretch, and a bit of off track there as Imola comes out Variante Tamburello and onto this part here. Another chicane, so full of chicanes and kind of hairpin-like corners, so it kind of keeps the average speed of cars around here relatively low. One thing to note also is that here at Imola, the track is very narrow, so it's going to be, racing side by side will be quite a challenge here.
Yeah, that's a great point, Weihan. I'm not going to see any of the three wide turn overtakes like we did a couple days ago. Going to keep things maybe a little bit calmer, but I do want to point out that we do have 4, not 3 racers this time around, and for these 4, absolutely some of the best in the business. We got to see Caio Gaspar dominate in our first race of the day on Cota, and now coming here on Imola, absolutely expecting a very similar situation. An incredible racer, and always somebody you should expect to see at the top of the standings. And of course, joined by Gaston Kalevi, Josh Perwin, and Diego Villarreal, all of whom have set pretty comparable race times when it comes to their times out on the track here at Imola. And comparing these race times to the average for GTEs out on this track in real life, you're looking for guys like Matthew Griffin, who was able to set a 1:41 time. So all of these racers on the bleeding edge of times to expect out on this track.
Yep. Upon umbrella once again. So you can see that here at Imola, a lot of the corners, they've also got plenty of what you call those sleeping policemen, like those humps by the curb, and you don't want to take those parts too hard, or you might ding your suspension or even ruin your bumper, and that's going to be quite a problem if you're racing around here. Final two corners, once again, this reversa, these two corners, you kind of think of them as one of the most crucial parts of this track, where you absolutely have to ensure that you're making across as much speed as you can in order to have a good run down the main stretch here, which isn't exactly straight. It's kind of bent here and there, but it's good enough for the drivers to really thunder down before they come upon a braking zone. This braking zone, you don't want to miss it, because if you do, you will find yourself barreling onto the gravel pit there outside of the chicane, and now onto a short chute before going onto Villeneuve chicane. So you can see that here at Imola, really, it's what used to really be a flowing circuit. In some ways, it's kind of become like a street circuit, which, for all intents and purposes, yes, it does promote safer racing. But you would have also lost some of the character that has been the case over the years. As we see a bit of a mistake there by Gaston Coulthard taking Tosa. Definitely quite easy to sometimes lose your car a little bit, but nonetheless, drivers still continue on. And practice is over. We do have a look at the lap times that the drivers have, all within the range of 140s, 142, 143 indeed. So I think we are set to see drivers having quite close battles, just as it was the case earlier on at Cota.
Always nice to see some close times here from our racers today, and we should get started with our group qualifying in just a minute. Glad you kind of pointed out the feel of this track. It does feel a little bit like a street track, and of course it is called Imola after the closest town. It has gone through quite a few name changes from its Grand Prix days. I believe now more closely associated with Emilia-Romagna, the section of Italy that it is located in. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful scenic vistas. And of course you can see those represented here in iRacing as well. Starting to get up to speed here for our first lap of many to come in the 10 minutes of qualifiers that we'll have here today. And it's going to be interesting to see how well these represent what we would expect from our racers. Diego Villarreal, a guy that we always talk about being up top standings. Really strange to see him down there, but even just a couple days ago, some very, very upsetting occurrences early on in the race. And for guys like Josh Perwin, this is absolutely an up-and-coming racer you should be looking for. He has had an incredible amount of success in the Southeast Asian circuit, and he is looking to bring that further here into AMX Season 2, setting some absolutely blistering times around some of the sharpest turns here in that chicane. And we'll see if he can elaborate on his two-win performance from even just this week. So a lot, or I guess it was last week, but a lot on the line here for our racers, as this is one of our paid tier races. So even more money in the prize pool. And if you guys want to get your chunk of that, you can head on over to amxrace.com to join. Even during qualifiers, you can get in here and join our racers. And always nice when we see that happen, because the challenge is definitely heating up as the season progresses.
Yeah, certainly. We're now well into qualifying, and drivers have already done their out lap, so we should expect a time lap from the drivers within towards the end of this lap. So Gaston Coulthard, who I think he wasn't around in the previous race, but good to see him here racing with us in GTEs here at Imola. We have a good composition of fast drivers here. 4 drivers, but still all of them are very fast indeed. So you can see that the scenery is definitely very nice. You've got spectators, and you've got very nice Italian countryside scenery that's here at Imola. The good thing about here at Imola is that you still get some elevation changes, and that alone is kind of enough to give you a good racing experience. You kind of throw in a bit of challenges here and there as you take on the different sections. So over Piratella and down into Minerali corner here, this is one of the trickier corners here. You don't want to use too much of that curb, which Coulthard did over there, because if you use too much of it, you might cop a cut track penalty. And then you come towards the second of the final corners. Here the chicane, of course, it used to be all the way straight, a long stretch downhill all the way to Reversa, but the chicane was introduced just to kind of keep the top speeds of the cars in check. So certainly some great stuff by the drivers as okay, you can see that they're now taking a little bit slow in preparation for the final corner before then coming towards the start-finish line for their qualifying lap.
That's right, we should be getting some lap times up on our screens pretty soon. Looks like Kalevi actually kind of up there towards the top, but we'll see if we'll see what kind of times they post up as they head through the finish line. Looks like a 140 from Caio Gaspar, and 1 second back for Josh Kerwin. Kalevi and Villarreal about to roll across the finish line for their first qualifying times. And representatives, we are now about halfway through our qualifiers, so if you're going to post up a time, it needs to happen soon.
Yep, coming towards the halfway point of qualifying, so already the qualifying lap times are coming in. Caio Gaspar with a 1:40.310. Definitely a fast lap time, with Villarreal coming in third, in fact, with a 1:42.5. So pretty close lap times, of course. You know, as long as drivers are within 3 seconds of one another, it is kind of expected that drivers will be within this space. Perwian with a lap time of 1:41.61, so that's certainly good stuff indeed. So, well, Perwin had a good run in the previous race. He's probably going to also have a good time with Caio Gaspar, I would imagine, as this race progresses. So clearly one battle to take note of is, well, any battling that will happen between Gaspar and Perwin. That's something to pay attention to as we see how that turns out. So we're now with Gaston Coulthard, who has yet to set out qualifying lap time. I think he might have gotten a bit of an incident earlier on, so he couldn't get a valid lap time in. But now he comes upon the final corner here along Rivazza, taking the exit, and full throttle down along the way to the start-finish line. Let's see what time he's able to set down. The driver from Argentina comes across the start-finish line with a lap time of 1:14.91. That pushes him up all the way to second, sandwiched between the Brazilian and the Aussie driver. So, great stuff indeed.
Yeah, that was really incredible. You know, you're never able to tell until they do get that cross, but you can see improving on 3 out of the 5 sectors of this Imola track. Really, really starting to hit those top speeds and settling into familiarizing himself with this race. And keep in mind, with the exception of Kalevi, he was not involved in our first race of the day. He might have been out here practicing, but for Gaspar, Perwin, and Villarreal, they all were spending the last hour of their time doing the practice, doing the qualifiers, and racing on Circuit of the Americas. So now to have to switch from Circuit of Americas to a track like this, very, very different experience here. There's less extremely sharp turns. Obviously, you do have the, I guess not quite a hairpin at Rivazza after your first little semi-straightaway. But when you compare the driving experiences from these drivers, you really start to get an idea of how versatile they truly are. Very, very different tracks, and we're starting to see whether or not they will be able to adjust to that.
Zopavon Piratella, this, I think, probably the highest point on the racetrack. You are kind of, as you take the apex, you are kind of going over the crest, so it's important that you don't spin out. Just take that corner. Here, yes. Minerali corner, definitely always one of those spaces. It used to be a very complex chicane at that area where drivers would go absolutely slow around the corner, but I think that chicane was kind of smoothened out just so that the flow of the race would be a bit better. I think that's a good move by the track designers. Okay, slowing down a little bit. I think that might have been a cut track. That was probably a cut track at Minerali along the exit of 12. So letting by car behind, that would probably try to identify what car it is in front. But Villarreal, let's see if no, he's not going to have a good lap time here. So I think he will have to make use of the remaining minutes of the qualifying session to have the lap time dialed in.
You're absolutely right, Wei Han. Because this is group qualifiers, you do get to finish your lap whenever you start it, as long as it starts before the end of the 10-minute lap time period for qualifiers. So If you have an outlap, if you do go outside the bounds, you have a little bit of time to get out there and restart your final lap before qualifiers close. So see if any of our drivers can improve on their times here. Diego Villarreal, a lot to prove as he is a little bit newer this season. With guys like Caio Gaspar and Josh Irwin having raced virtually every day this season, so a lot of data to go off of from them. And Gaston Colavi, he really a little bit of an oversteer there, a tragedy spinning out there as we were on board with Josh Perwin. He did have a time good enough for third place through qualifiers, but really struggled through that corner.
Yeah, I think the moment you lose your flow, you do kind of start to mess up a little bit. Of course, Josh Perwin, very fast driver. He's already put in a fast qualifying lap time, so I think he is kind of all set for the race indeed. So this is Cool Harvey. Yes, I have to remember his dark blue paint scheme here. Cool Harvey along the final corner. Let's see what lap time he's able to get. So his lap time to beat 1:43.10. Previous fastest. His best lap time 1:49. Oh, fails. So we're not gonna have a fast lap time by by Cool Harvey. So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it was a little bit anticlimactic. I was expecting some top speeds across it. No, nothing quite so exciting. We get one final lap here from Josh to see what he can do, but that is going to do it for our qualifiers as the checkered flag comes out. We will be heading into the actual race of races tonight, our final race of the night on Imola.
Yeah, but great place to go racing indeed as we come towards the end of qualifying, as you just mentioned there, Reed. Let's see if Caio Gaspar is able to best his previous lap time. Well, he's already got professional pole position in many ways. Let's see if he's able to best that. So he's had the fastest third and fourth sector. Let's see how that's going to play out to his lap time. He's going to come around with a lap time of... Well, I don't think he's best his previous lap time, so he continues on with 1:43.10, still pole position. Great stuff.
Yep, hard to improve on perfection. And keep an eye on that, 140.3, as we watch our upcoming 12 laps to see exactly how much our racers can improve on an already incredibly fast time there set by Caio Gaspar. A look over the beautiful countryside of the Imola circuit, the Emilia-Romagna section of Italy. All things you can see if you are there in person, or alternatively, log into iRacing and check it out here for ourselves. A nice, calming, scenic overlook while we wait for the bloodthirsty action to start here any moment on Imola.
It'd be nice to live in one of the houses here along Imola circuit. It'll be so nice. Look at all the houses around the track. So lucky, these people.
I was thinking about that because I think for most people it's like living near an airport, unless you just really love airplanes. And then it's lit, right? You get airplanes all the time. They're just right there. Exactly. They come to you. And I think I would feel the same here if I lived near Imola, because you just get race cars all the time. You just look out your window. Oh, yep, racing. That's cool. You hear the racing outside. You're like, wow, it's lit. But I think for most people, they might be like, oh my, another race today. So annoying. But those people,
it's a whole neighborhood. It's a whole neighborhood.
I would call those people unenlightened, unlike us, Chad race noise enjoyers out there. So a few other racing enjoyers there: Caio Gaspar, Gaston Colavi, Josh Perwin, and Diego Villarreal lining up on the podium for our qualifying times, and just a second or two apart between them. So absolutely expecting a very close race, as you can see our pace car out onto the track for a half lap of rolling start.
Yes, look at these beautiful Ferraris. Well, I'll tell you, man. I think the reason why all four cars are Ferraris is because we're racing in Italy, and it's law that you have to race Ferraris here.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is that this is the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari. So maybe there's the ghost of the blessing out here with us today as our drivers get up to speed. Pace car is still out there, but heading out right about now and letting things get started with our laps here today.
So it is green flag and we're off. Great start by Caio Gaspar. Everyone's already into a single file. That's quick. No attempts at overtaking. So Josh Perwin takes the slipstream of Gaston Kohlhavi as he tries to go along the outside. Gaspar leads the pack of four down into Cambarello chicane. Oh, bit of lockup by drivers there. Gaston going aggressive over the humps, going for a rallycross ride there. So a bit of gap that he's extended behind Gaston Kohlhavi. So a great start nonetheless. Everyone's going through cleanly as they come their way into Variante Villeneuve. It's a great start indeed.
Josh Perwin continuing to struggle, coloring inside the lines, hitting a lot of the bumps on the outside, going wide on these curves, and trying to keep it in the middle. But apexing struggles already, even at the very beginning of this race. And you're right, we didn't see any attempts at early overtaking, and for all intents and purposes, now we should be settling into a little bit of a top flight here. So, once again, going very, very wide there. Caio Gaspar scribbling a little bit.
He's had to give up his race lead due to that cut track. Well, so you have your new race leader, Gaston Kohlhavi. We're going to probably see Argentina versus Brazil. Very exciting stuff indeed. But Josh Perwin up to second. So Gaspar lost 3 positions within the span of 1 lap. And, well, I think he's got quite a lot of ground to have to retake for himself if he wants to get back into contention. Villarreal continues to race in 4th position. He's currently close behind the drivers in 1st to 3rd. So of course that's your first lap around Imola, and Kohlhavi, your race leader at this point.
Yeah, wow, really rough to see that drop there. Definitely have to stay on the road. Number 1 rule of racing. I'm coming up with my own rules of racing, and they include things like being good at traveling in circles and staying on the road. Seemingly innocent and yet so difficult. You watch our drivers struggle to apex like that. Now on board with the new race leader, Gaston Kohlhavi, up in front and a second ahead of Josh Perwin, who also is struggling a lot with these Imola curves. So keep an eye out the back rear view mirror of Gaston Kohlhavi as he leads by just over a second on Josh Perwin.
Brilliant stuff. We have a good perspective riding on the bumper camera of Josh Perwin. He's sitting in second. He's got a second behind Gaston Kohlhavi, so a fair bit of ground to cover before he's able to go for the contention for the race lead. So I think in some ways we might hopefully see something like the last, like the previous race where there was battling between all drivers. Oh, bit of mistake, and around goes Josh Perwin. He's going to lose his positions. He's down to 4th position as Leo Villarreal goes up to 3rd, making good use of the traction control disable feature to spin his car back facing the right way forward, and Josh Perwin resumes his race in 4th position.
I mean, might need the to keep the traction control on as much as possible. They're losing it, spinning out just a little bit. Always something to keep an eye on, as even struggling now to stay in a straight line. And it looks like we will have a replay coming up to show the first of those impressive overtakes. With Kohlhavi in the lead now, the story is a little bit more complicated than that. We have certainly seen a very dynamic race already, and we're only through 3 out of our 12 laps.
Yeah, well, certainly Imola bringing us good action. As we have a look at the replay after the race start, that is an overtake for the race lead. Certainly, I think one of the moments that we didn't really exactly capture too well earlier on. So that resulted in Gaston Kohlhavi taking the race lead. We're back to live pictures with Josh Perwin involved. So all drivers have traded positions one way or another. Caio Gaspar back to the race lead. Gaston Coulibaly down to second position, so I think he spun off a little bit wide along the exit of what would probably appear to be Piratella. I think so, Piratella corner. But of course, continuing to hold off Diego Villarreal, who is in third position. All four drivers are absolutely fast indeed. So again, over here, it's all about how you're able to survive. Even if it's just 20 minutes, it's all about how you're going to survive and manage your car. On top of ensuring that you always have the right pace. Coming upon the Variante Alta chicane, Villarreal continues to try to identify if he can get a bit of a slipstream from Coulibaly, despite there being a 7/10 second gap as they come breaking down into reverse. I tell you, man, it doesn't get more Italian than this. Looking at all the racing Italian cars and Italian track and having Italian strategies in some ways. I wonder what Marco would say in a moment like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Italian cars on an Italian track doesn't get much more iconic than that. I think we have a replay of Josh Perwin kind of losing control a little bit because he cuts the corner early and then the apex not coming his way, overspins and loses himself there, not causing any other collateral damage, but certainly losing his attempt at taking the lead for the race for then, and now finds himself struggling at the back of the pack by 3.5 seconds. A lot of time left to make up, whereas kind of the first casualty of the race, Diego Villarreal, leaving the track and then coming back, had to take a trip all the way back to the back of the pack, and now he's is struggling, clawing his way back into that second place spot. If you think about his performance in the first race of the day on Circuit of the Americas, he really did not only dominate the first place position, but he continued to improve on his time every single lap, and that really distanced himself from the rest of the pack. So if you saw him in our first race make up about 4 seconds of lead, he needs to do that now, because he is about 5 seconds, or he's 1 second behind Coulibaly, who is 5 behind our leader Caio Gaspar. So a lot of racing left to do, and Caio back up there at the top where he belongs. An impressive race so far.
So great stuff. Caio Gaspar in the race lead. He's made quite a big breakaway in many ways. And of course, right now it is Gaston Coulibaly leading Diego Villarreal. So this could become the next battle for us to look out for, as hopefully if Villarreal is able to close up this gap, we might see some action happening here in the middle of the grid. Over the curbs, the sleeping policeman, don't want to use too much of that. Well, it's one of those things, right? Racing at a track like this, they don't want you to cut the corners, so they put those curbs, those hubs there to kind of slow you down.
Yeah, when you say kind of slow you down, I mean, it feels like they really do throw a wrench in the works. And now coming around Toza, we are really going to start to see these drivers clump up a little bit. You can see especially Diego Villarreal looking at the back end of Gaston Coulibaly, really needing about a second back at this point. Got to tighten it up here as we come through some of the tighter turns. And now it looks like we are going to be checking out the unfortunate spin here coming up now. Coming around the corner, you can see, too wide, too fast. Not the way you want to look to drift your way around a corner.
So the thing with these absolutely fast racing drivers is that they'll use every inch, every centimeter of tarmac that's available, and what that means is that because of that, they'll always have blistering fast lap times. But sometimes we're just that bit not cautious enough. If you use too much of the grass, if you give too much of the grass, indeed, that will send your car spinning around. So, but still, the drivers are definitely where they are now because of that, because they're willing to push the boundaries, and pushing the boundaries indeed does Caio Gaspar with a 4.5 second lead ahead of the rest of the field. Gaston Coulibaly still fights on well in second, and his job now is to maintain his position and try to close out the gap. Josh Perwin in fourth. Of course, he didn't exactly have the best starting moments of the race, but still good to see him race here nonetheless. His fastest lap time was 1:42.719. So I think we are starting to see an indication of pace in terms of how different how far apart these drivers are from one another in terms of lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And even Josh Perwin is starting to improve his time. Down by about 5 seconds earlier, he is closing the gap little by little as we enter the halfway point of our race for today. Josh does sit in the back of the pack, but may not be there, depending on if you see some more mishaps that we have in our replays today. But one thing that never changes, Kyle Gaspar up there at the very, very front, absolutely dominating the races here today and continuing to widen the gap between him and the challengers. One of whom is Diego Villarreal, sitting back here in third place. But honestly, as far as the race goes today, the closest to starting a little bit of action in this second half of our race says he is a second and a half behind Kulevi. Maybe 1.8, so we'll need to catch things up a little bit. But I think as we've seen so far during our time on Imola, absolutely anything can happen. So keep your eye on the scoreboard because leader can change at any moment.
Yeah, certainly we've crossed the midpoint of the race with Gaspar in the race lead and Kulhavi in second. I do apologize, there's some planes flying over my house, not sure if that's being picked up. So we're getting some good shots here of Gaspar taking on these sections here along Imola circuit. You can just see how far he is ahead of the rest of the field. That is quite a remarkable advantage that Gaspar has made for himself over the first half of the race indeed. And you know what they say about having, you know, differences in lap times, right? Well, these differences in lap times between drivers you have, when stretch them over the magnitude of like a couple of minutes or even a couple of laps, these do add up, and that's how you're able to lap after lap kind of extend yourself a gap ahead of everyone else who's racing behind you. Gaston Kulhavi continues in second and continues to lead Villarreal. Of course, he's extended that gap between himself and P3 to about 2.2 seconds, and hopefully that continues on, whereas Perwin continues in fourth with 2-second gap.
Yes, that's incredibly fast times here being set today. And even in qualifiers, we saw, I think, times not quite as fast as these, around 140s, and we are seeing dangerously close times set close to 140 or 139 even. About 40 seconds away from that. So you're going to have to keep an eye on this with a 142 set by Caio Gaspar. Not infallible at all, although it does look like very comparable to the times being set by Levi Villarreal and Josh Perwin as they come through to start the 8th lap and the last quarter of our time here on Imola. Gaspar dominating and continuing to stretch that 5-second lead as much as he can.
Well, I have to say, Gaspar's pace scheme is so nice indeed. I just love the tone of hue that he's using. My favorite color indeed.
Yeah, see, I actually have a whole story about this, Wei Han, and at the risk of alienating our audience, you know, there's a lot that you can do with that seafoam green, right? Cyan? Not quite. I believe the actual tone is called malachite, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, there's quite a heated debate on that. And obviously, this is sim racing, so if we can pick things to have heated debates about, you know we're going to do it.
That's right. That's how we know you're enjoying sim racing up to the finals details. Indeed, Josh Perwin coming up very close indeed with Diego Villarreal, so we might see a battle take place here as we come towards the final third of the race at lap 8 here at Imola. So the gap between them sits at 0.8 of a second, and Perwin, being the driver who's definitely hungry for a position gain, he's definitely going to put on a lot of pressure on Villarreal, and we'll see how this pans out over the next couple of moments. They're coming up on the main stretch once again, and we'll see if Perwin is going to be able to use this stretch to perhaps close up the gap. No, that doesn't seem to be possible. Villarreal has a straight line speed advantage at this point as he starts to leave Perwin trailing behind. But so fast the corner has come, so you can kind of see that the straight at Imola isn't exactly as long as we would have imagined it.
Right, certainly something not something like the back straightaway on Circuit of the Americas we saw earlier on. That is just pedal to the metal. Let's see how fast you can go. But for guys like Josh Perwin, man, this is a really, really impressive feat to see somebody go back down after being in second place, down to fourth by a mile. It was like up to 5 seconds back of Villarreal, and now pulling it into under half a second. Incredible driving here by Josh Perwin as he struggles and claws his way back into contention, even looking for a potential overtake in under a couple tenths of a second.
Yep, absolutely very close indeed. We're down into 1/10 of a second. We have a good perspective of this from the bumper cameras of both cars. Perwin along the outside of the chicane. Villarreal leads Perwin as they exit the Variante Alta chicane as they come upon another stretch here behind. You know, the thing with straight lines here at Imola is that they're not exactly straight. There are some bends here and there, but that definitely adds to the excitement of racing here at Imola. Will Perwin think of a move down the inside? No, not exactly possible. As he comes around the final corners towards the end of yet another lap here at Imola. Of course, this being lap 10 here at Imola, and we will continue to see if Perwin is able to. You can see that Perwin is definitely trying to close up the gap, trying his best to make any moves possible, but his opportunity is going to be relatively slim if he's not able to make a move within the next couple of moments.
Man, when you talk about Imola, it doesn't get much more exciting than this. Of course, we're used to very fast cars here. Formula One, right, coming back to the Grand Prix circuit here. But for racing these GTEs, almost just as exciting, incredibly fast. If you look for this overtake, all right, taking the inside of the curve, Perwin coming around, looking for any opportunity for the overtake. Is he going to do it here? Getting around on the inside, hitting that top speed side by side. A very narrow track is Imola, and almost touching the back end. Less than a tenth of a second here between our drivers as Josh Perwin looks to make a move with the last 2 laps left to race. Extending that back out now as we go through some of the more complicated chicanes coming up. But absolutely, after we do see our drivers head through around the corner there at Ravazza, got a long straightaway and a great opportunity for Josh Perwin to strike again.
Oh, certainly close battle. Perwin definitely wants this alright. So 2 laps left for Perwin to think of any moves to make Villarreal, of course, having a tough job managing his rear view mirror there with a lot of Perwin plastered up on his rear view mirror indeed. So of course this is going to continue to maintain itself. This battle will continue to exist as such as the drivers continue on the final 2 laps here, down to the penultimate lap of racing here at Imola, and we'll continue to see if this action will shape up to be even more spicy as they take on this. Oh, very close indeed, almost coming to contact. Perwin goes out wide on the exit of Cambrello chicane there. That's going to become a stumbling block to his attempts to take 3rd position indeed, and unfortunately we would probably see an end to Perwin's attempt to take 3rd position.
Man, a tragedy striking there at very last second. Josh Perwin continuing to duel right, left, every single opportunity he could take, and then just wide once again. Kind of a tale as old as, well, at least as old as this race. And we're going to get a chance to look at it once again to see exactly how close they were, even just touching, tapping right there. And you can see him over a little bit too fast and then unable to make that very, very sharp chicane, unable to keep up the fight. And that will solidify himself a spot in 4th. For now, I have to add that little asterisk because we do still have a couple of laps left, and he is bringing it back to within a second again around such a tight chicane and keeping it close, drawing it back. Perwin wants another shot at this with 1 more lap to go.
Well, quick recovery drive by Perwin indeed. So we can see that Perwin is definitely a very resilient driver. He's managed to recover very well. So white flag is in the air. Gaspar is still your race leader with Cool Harvey in 2nd, but the excitement of this race is exactly here. The battle for 3rd, the last position up on the podium. Perwin wants this. Villarreal has this at this moment here at lap 12 here at Imola. So the battle continues. If Perwin wants this, he has to make the moves work within the next 18 times that he steers the car around this track. That's the number of corners that's left in the final lap here at Imola, and we'll see if Perwin is able to make this move work. So he cannot afford to make any missteps again. Of course, the clock has taken less than 2 minutes to go before he's going to be able to, before the positions kind of solidify itself. So Villarreal continues to lead Perwin down onto Villeneuve corner and onto Tosa once again. It's now or never, man.
Yep, a very sharp curve there around Piratella as we head through the second half of our final lap. White flag is out, and Josh Perwin has 3.5 tenths of a second to make up in the second half of this race. Only seconds left as we round the penultimate corners here at Rivazza coming up, and he's going to go for it again. Can he find his way back? Absolutely, tail touching. Can he find his way around a tenth of a second? Coming through the final corner, is it going to be enough? Josh Perwin pedal to the metal around the corner in Rivazza, coming through the finish line. Is he going to make it up? Can he find the speed at the final minutes? It's lap 12 and one final lap to end it all. Josh Perwin, he's got to squeeze a little bit of extra time out here, and he just cannot do it. He can do it. Josh Perwin finds his way around the corner, and Diego Villarreal will be sitting in the final and fourth spot coming in here, but across the finish line, it's negative. Villarreal with the overtake at the very final second. The checkered flag leaves Josh Perwin in last place, and Diego Villarreal finds the extra wind in his wings to fly across the finish line in third place. A podium finish for Diego Villarreal.
So Perwin almost had it in the bag, but just because he took the wrong line across the start-finish line, Villarreal took it back from Perwin, and well, look, that was just so exciting indeed. The whole of the last lap was such excitement. Villarreal comes home in third with Perwin in fourth position. Incredible stuff indeed.
Wow. I mean, it doesn't get any closer than that. You know, you give these racers 12 laps to do it. And it really feels like kind of me when I'm doing my homework, you know, when I have to study for a test the next day. I'm kind of procrastinating a little bit, right? I save all the good study time until...
So I think we're just going to have
sorry,
a
I
look
don't know
at
if you guys can hear that
results.
on the stream, but it's quite jarring.
Okay, so we are going to have a look at the results of the race very quickly. I'll just run through you. So your race winner is Caio Gaspar, the driver from Brazil. Definitely great stuff indeed. Gaspar won the previous... No, it didn't win. Oh, Caio Gaspar won the previous race at Circuit of the Americas. He wins again with the GTEs here at Imola. Gaston Kohlhavi will come home in second with Diego Villarreal, just by a hair's margin in third with Josh Perwin. He put up such a great fight, but odds were not in his favor. Josh Perwin comes home in fourth position.
Okay, sorry about that. I had a little poltergeist issue, but excellent way to break it down there at the end, Weihan. An incredibly exciting way to end our time here on Imola. Really iconic. Autodromo Internazionale. Ferrari. And some great Ferrari driving by all of our drivers as we slow-mo our way back across the finish line for the last time. And that is going to do it. Weihan, an absolute pleasure be able to join you for the games today. And of course, a big thanks to everybody else out there who joined us back again for our races today in AMX Season 2. We hope all of you have been enjoying our broadcast. Of course, we'd love to hear back from you. You can see down below us, and in fact, kind of toward the side and that side, everywhere you look, we've got some social media, and we'd love to interact with you. So hit us up on social media. Let us know what you thought about today's races. Share some of your favorite moments, and we'll share them right back with you as we come back day after day for the remaining 75 races, something like that. We've got a lot more racing left to do in AMX Season 2. And if you'd like to join us for that, you can head on over to amxrace.com and sign up. We've got free races, $5 and $20 entry fees, and all the racing left to be done for the rest of the season. So we want to thank you all for joining us once again here for our broadcast here as part of AMX Season 2. And so on behalf of myself, Wei Han, our production team behind the scenes, and everybody else involved, we want to give you guys a big thanks for watching. See you back here next time for even more AMX Season 2. Okay, great job, Wei Han.